Hi, uh, we're streaming now from Georgia, Ureki, from Inclusive Practices Studio. And today we have a special day because we have an English language meeting interview. And I'm in touch with an amazing person who made a huge contribution to the development of inclusive education and in his country, in other European and many other countries, person who continues to make this contribution, and he can share his invaluable experience with us today. Please welcome the president of the Portuguese National Association for Special Education Teachers, Pro Inclusion, professor, author of 30 published books, director of the Inclusive Education magazine, respected and very welcome guest lecturer in different universities all over the world, researcher, practitioner, and leader, Senor David Antonio Rodrigues.
All right, thank you very much.
Boa noite. Boa
Boa
noite.
noite.
Ou não sei português, ou não sei. E se é possível, vamos conversar em inglês.
Very good. I understood everything. I understood. Very good, Anna. Very good.
Thank you. This is my first Portuguese sentence, but I hope it will not be the last one.
You have a future. You have a future.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez, can I ask you, can I just tell you David
Yeah, of
during the
course, of course.
interview? Yeah, is it? Thank you very much. So, dear David, if I continue to talk about all your awards, honors, your work, it will take about 45 minutes or about. You can be found it and read it and we'll search it and see it. But there is something that I couldn't find. When, where, and how this path in inclusion and in special teaching has started in your life.
All right, thank you very much, Anna. It's a great pleasure to be here. I think here we don't know where. Here
Here.
means probably I'm in Ureki, I'm in Georgia, I'm in Erevan, I'm in Armenia, I'm in Belarus, in Ukraine. I don't know where I am, but I am very comfortable. I'm very comfortable to be with you, and I have the best memories of your work, of your commitment, and your friendship, your emotions. That is, in the end, is what it matters in life. Is the
Thank you.
emotions, is the link, is the friendship, the connection we have with other people. So I'm very glad to be here, Hannah, and thank you for your invitation.
It's great
So,
pleasure.
as you said, I've been working in this field for almost 40 years. 40,
Zero.
40 years. It's a lot of time. And
Mm.
so I started to be a regular teacher. I was a teacher in regular schools. And in that time in Portugal, that means in the beginning of the 70s,
Uh-huh.
70s year, 70s of the last century.
Like
Uh,
it was something 1972, 3.
yes, about that. And
Yeah.
so some students with disabilities started to enter in our schools,
Mhm.
and that was a real challenge for us because in that time we talked about integration. That is, the school is here and the students try to integrate in the school. That
Yeah.
means that school was not able to change, just
Yeah.
to open doors, but
Yeah.
school didn't change. And so for a lot of times, I've worked in this, I will say, paradigm, this idea of integration. That
Mm.
means the school is here and students come to integrate.
Yeah.
And only in a more recent time, about 20 years ago, we started with this idea of inclusion. And integration and inclusion are two different things. Because one thing is that school doesn't change and students come to school. Inclusion is something else, is different, is that students want to go to school, but school wants to reach the students. Oh, this is a mutual, a dual movement. Not only students go to school, but also the school gets closer to the students. And that was a movement that we started in Portugal in about 1990, before the Salamanca Declaration, that famous Salamanca Declaration of UNESCO in 94.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nowadays, Portugal is one of the leading countries in the world on inclusion. And let me give you some numbers. 99%, 99%
Mostly
of
100%.
students with disabilities are educated in regular schools. I would say almost
It's
all,
really, yeah.
except cases of serious health condition. But
Mm,
99% of students are in regular schools. And in my country, all the schools are considered as inclusive schools. All schools are inclusive schools. That is, students with difficulties, students with disabilities can go to any public school in Portugal. And this is a great effort that we have done in political terms, because we had to spend a lot of money for turn all the schools into inclusive schools. And I
mm,
give you an example. In my country, we have about 10 million inhabitants, 10 million. And we have 7,500 teachers of special education in regular schools.
it's not mostly.
7,500. And these teachers are teachers of school. The same way it's a teacher of science or math. You have a teacher of special education in schools. Normally, not only one, but two or three or five or six teachers of special education in every school in Portugal. And so this was really a big challenge. And Portugal is considered now to be, like, let us say, a lighthouse
In
about
Europe. In Europe.
yes, in inclusion. And I myself, I was a participant of all this process. First of
Yeah.
all, as a teacher, then as a university professor, where I was promoting inclusion with my students. And nowadays, I'm a national counselor of education. That means I am in an advisory board for the Ministry of Education about inclusive education. And I'm coordinating a national project on teacher education for inclusion. So,
Mm,
in two words, Anna, this is
yeah.
my life,
But
my
anyway,
pathway.
you are not you are not a person who are interested, like, I mean, you are not a person who gives his time and his energy to a standard education. Anyway, you give it to inclusive education. So
Yes, in
why
a way,
why why?
yeah, in a way, Anna, in the end, regular
Mhm.
education and inclusive education,
It's
it's
the
two of a
same.
kind.
It's,
It's two of a kind. You can't say one without the other, especially in my country. We don't
yeah.
have two systems, a regular system and a special system. We have one system of education, and that system of education is an inclusive education system. One system. We
It's
don't have.
very, it's very seldom thing. It's very really seldom thing.
Yeah.
because mostly in the countries and of course in public schools, it's always divided.
Yeah.
Special curriculum for special children and another curriculum for like simple children. But you know, the thing is that I think that people who are involved in inclusion in any way, like parents of children with special needs or even professionals in this area, they have all their own understanding of what is the inclusion, and
Hmm.
they have like some picture own picture of how it should work in practice. And you have been inside very different sides of inclusion, like I mean, and in practice and in activities. I'm sorry, and in researches. What do you think? What do you think from your point of view?
What is inclusion? Is your
Yeah, how
question?
to describe inclusion in practice?
Okay. Okay. First of all, one important thing, Anna, is
Mhm.
when you say inclusion in practice, it's not only practice. When you want to speak about inclusion, you have to have values, you have to have concepts, because practice only is nothing. Practice
Mhm.
only is nothing. Sometimes I meet teachers that say to me, you know, I'm a very practical person. I don't care about theoretical things. And I say, you don't imagine, my dear, how much theory is in your practice. How much theory is in your practice. Each time you are with a child, there's a little Piaget on your practice, a little Vygotsky on your practice. It's a little Brunner in your practice. It's a little Dewey in your practice. All the great pedagogues are in your practice. And so when you ask me what is inclusion in practice, I would say, first of all, you have to know what is inclusion and what are you fighting for? What are the values of inclusion? And I'd like to stress that inclusion is a human right. Inclusion is a human right. That means that among human rights, you have to, to think about inclusion. The Committee of Human Rights of the United Nations in 2019 said that inclusion is a multiplier right. That means
Multiplier.
that if
Mhm.
you assure inclusion, other rights will come with inclusion. The
Good. Mm.
inclusion will multiply the rights. First of all is this: inclusion is a human right. So you can't say to a certain child, oh, poor of him, he has this condition, it's better not to include him. This is
Mhm.
not to respect the
Human
human
right.
rights of
Yeah.
this child, first of all. Second, inclusion
Mhm.
is always a process. Sometimes we say, oh, I want, this is not inclusion, this is inclusion, this is not inclusion. And sometimes we forget that inclusion is a process, is something that we are traveling, is like a way till inclusion.
Yeah.
And how we have to go step by step in this way. You have to progress step by step. Inclusion is a process. And also, inclusion is related with education for all and with all. That
Good.
is, we want all students to be educated, but we want all the students to be educated with all the students. That means that we have to organize schools in a way that if one child with a difficulty or with a disability goes to school, is not a problem. Is not, oh my God, I have a child with Down syndrome in my school. No,
Yeah.
When school says, "Oh my God, I have a drown," the problem is not of the child, is of the school that is not able to understand that a lot of things can be done in order that that child can be together, can participate, can be part of the group, and can learn in school. And the question is, you will learn the same of others? Certainly not. But he will learn. He's able to learn.
Yeah.
Inclusion means that we respect the capacity, the possibility of every human being can learn. Every human being can learn. Not the same things, not in the same rhythm, but
Yeah.
all of us we can learn. So these are three or four basic concepts about inclusion. What to do in practice. Anna, that was your question, was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What to
How
do
is that in practice? Yeah.
in practice? So in practice, I would say I invite you to come to Portugal
Mhm.
because in Portugal, in every school, you can see how it works in practice. And in practice, we have those teams of special education in schools that help every teacher to work with children with difficulties. In Portugal, we say that all teachers are teachers of inclusive education. Again, all teachers are teachers of inclusive education because all teachers are teachers of human rights. All teachers work with people.
With
So
your
they are
contribution.
teachers of they are teachers of inclusive education. And
Yeah.
so
Was
answering
was it your idea? I mean, you participated actively in implanting this model in
was
Portugal?
yes, I did. I was part of the consulting committee for the new law, and as I told you, I'm coordinating in the Ministry of Education a national project about we called inclusive education in action, and so I'm coordinating that project.
So you now see that, of course, I understand that inclusion, as you said, it's ongoing process. It can never be ideal like any part of our life, and you should always change something and go on and see your mistakes and then learn something new. But anyway, as a mother of a child with this of a special child, can you say that it's the most closest to the ideal model in Portugal, this inclusive education, as close as it can be or not? Is it
Okay.
successful? Is it
You are
successful?
you are asking me to judge my own process.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, let me be honest with you. I
Yeah.
think we have been doing a hell of a work, a very good work in Portugal. And UNESCO and OECD has been recognizing the work of Portugal. For instance, the recent conference of UNESCO about inclusive education, the highlight was the Portuguese experience. So let me
It's terrific.
let me say that
I'm pretty sure you can be proud of it. I'm
I'm
pretty sure.
proud. I'm proud of it. But let me now awake my criticism and
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that we have problems, of course, in Portugal.
Uh-huh.
We are not
Uh-huh.
living in hell, in heaven. Sorry,
Yeah.
we are not living in
Nothing
heaven.
else.
Not
It's got
not
nothing else.
everything is perfect in Portugal, and we go on. This is a process. We are struggling, and we're trying to make inclusion better and possible in Portugal or every day. Which are our points that we are struggling?
Mhm.
Teacher education. We need a lot of teacher education. A lot of teachers say, I don't know how to work with a cerebral palsy child. I don't
Yeah.
know what to do. Is there
Yeah.
what can I do? And
Mhm.
first things we say to those teachers, say, if he didn't have a cerebral palsy, what would you do with him? Start
Mhm.
with that. What will you do?
If
What
he
is
was a
impossible?
talker. Yeah.
What is impossible to do with him? And
Yeah.
then we give him some advice. And this advice is not a theoretical advice. It's given by teachers of special education, psychologists in schools. They are located in schools and they help the regular teacher, the inclusive education teacher, to work
Mhm.
with his child. Uh,
Mhm.
you were very direct, Anna. You said, "What about my child? What would you do with my child in a regular school?" Was that your question, Anna?
Yeah, because we have been living in USA for 2 years,
Yeah.
and we moved there for my son when he was about 13 or 14 years old, hoping for this inclusive education. And he went to public school to a special class where only special children with him, and it was called inclusion, but there was no any inclusion there,
Of
nothing.
course. Of course.
The only thing they did with even I don't know, they didn't communicate even with another children in school. The only place they get together was like
The
cafe when they
playground. The playground.
wine. Yeah, and again they had separate table. They came before, then after them the whole school entered to eat. They went earlier, and once a week they went to a computer class or cooking class with another children. And they have special children who were only like special teachers, and a lot of tutors, and there was about 15 children in the class and 10 teachers. So it was not an inclusion.
No, it was not. It was not,
That's
Anna.
why I'm
Uh,
asking. I
Anna,
have.
Anna, I believe that they were doing the best they could with the knowledge they have. I believe that. But
Yeah,
as you say, that's not inclusion.
it's not
That's
inclusion.
not inclusion. I mean, if your starting point is a special class, that's not
Mm.
inclusion already.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you have the when you speak about inclusion, you have to give the child the most the most opportunities to be together with others
With other
and
children.
not in a special class. Because to
Yeah,
be in a special class is like to be in a special school in a regular school.
yeah.
And so we don't have special classes in Portugal. We don't have that. Of course, let me say that uh, disability is like a pyramid. A pyramid. For instance, when you speak about autism, for instance, I don't know. Would you like
Oh,
to tell what is the problem of
he was diagnosed severe autism.
autism,
Yeah,
non-verbal autism for him?
but yeah, it was non-verbal autism. Yeah.
Okay, I understand. So
But
imagine
he's
if
not
you have a,
non-verbal now. He's speaking, not too much, but he
but he
is.
speaks good.
Yeah, he
So
speaks.
imagine this pyramid is autism, and in here, in the basis, most
Mhm.
of cases of autism are mild cases, mild,
Yeah, yeah,
most of cases.
yeah.
Then you go
Functional.
you go
Mhm.
up to the pyramid, and then in here you have few cases very severe. First of all, let's not think, don't think that all cases of autism are severe. And most of cases of autism, I would say, I don't have a percentage, but most
Yes,
of
they are.
cases of autism, they
Yeah,
can be
mostly
in
they are not.
regular classes, interacting with other children and learning in regular schools with support of teachers of special education, of psychologists, but in regular classes together with his mates, with peers, with his colleagues. This is inclusion.
It's very good. It's because, for example, in Armenia, there are no special schools. We also have this inclusion law starting from 1995, but we have another problem. People don't take their children mostly to that school because nothing happens or something negative happens with them. And really, teachers are not educated, and it's not their fault, but they are not educated to understand how to deal with it.
I
So it,
understand, Anna. I understand, Anna, but that is, let us say, a political thing. That is, if you say I want an inclusive system, you have to give money and resources to that inclusive system. Because you can, if you say, oh, we are inclusive, it's okay, and teachers, they do what they can. This is not inclusion. This
yeah,
is not good inclusion. So, what I believe that inclusion can be is a system where you have teacher education, where you have resources, and where schools are really ready to do something, not only something, but a lot, but what is needed to educate every child. Because if the child goes to school and nothing happens, this is a bad education. Not only for children with disabilities, it's bad education for all the children. So we believe in school. We believe that school is important, and that's why we put all our efforts that school can be really a structure to educate every child together with every other child.
it's beautiful thing because I think that the models of special education cannot be adjusted in regular and inclusion cannot be adjusted to regular education. It's not the right formula to go forward because the education by itself should be some another kind of education so it can
Anna, this is so true. What you are saying is so true. I mean, inclusion is not an evolution of special education. Special education is one thing and inclusion is another. That means if you are in the idea of special education, you have teachers of special education. Everything is special for child. Is the school, is the room where is resources. Everything is special. When you are in inclusive education, you have adapted things. You adapt things for child, but they are not special. That means they are not only for that child. No, in inclusion, all the resources, all the strategies you use are not special, but they are adapted for that child. And so I say theoretically that special education doesn't lead to you to inclusion. Special education is one thing, inclusion is another.
it's very important thing for people who are hearing us now and watching to understand that special education and its like evolution doesn't mean inclusion, doesn't mean inclusive education. That there is a very different attitude, principles of these two things, and because these efforts to make it, they just overwhelm people.
Yeah, that's it.
They don't
Yeah.
work. They just overwhelm them. And you know, I remember one of your lectures when you showed this YouTube video with a sofa, couch that people are comfortable.
You remember that?
Yeah. Don't you mind if we just watch about 15 seconds now and talk about it a little?
Okay. Okay.
Just a second now, it will be on a screen. Okay, here is it. It was great. It was great. The best symbol I've ever seen about education and inclusion.
Good.
The school and yeah. Mhm. It's wonderful. This is about this effort, yeah, you were saying
Yeah,
that
yeah.
when I think it's okay, it's understandable for everybody, yeah. So when
Yes.
you
The
speak
only thing
about
you have to say, this goes on for 5 minutes, trying to put the sofa on the car. And
when it's like from
yeah.
under the car, above the car. So I think it clearly demonstrates this how inclusion is being implanted, or special education mostly being implanted into educational system. And so in this context, do you mean that educational standards mostly are very narrow and not flexible for these inclusive changes?
No doubt, Anna, no doubt. I mean,
Yeah,
if you think in an inclusive system, that's why I was saying before
yeah,
that
yeah,
there's not a big difference between regular education and inclusion. Because
yeah,
if you want to develop an inclusive system, you have to change the regular system too. And one
yeah.
of the most important things is you have to work on flexibility and differentiation of curriculum.
Mm.
Curriculum is not the holy words, the holy commandments that you can't change. You have to use the curriculum as an inspiration, as something that you can change, something that you can be flexible. If the curriculum can be changed, this is not inclusion. It will be impossible to include all the students, not only the students with difficulties, but a lot of students that feel that curriculum has no meaning for them. Imagine, for instance, children with a very high degree of intelligence and capacities. They feel that that curriculum is useless. It's not, doesn't mean it. So you have to work on differentiation of curriculum. Let me tell you one thing. Portugal, in my country, 25% of the curriculum is on the management of the school. I mean, each school can change till 25% of the curriculum, and they say we don't want this, we want this, and they can manage and they can
Intention.
organize that. Because so it's very important that curriculum is again a work in progress, something
So,
that is changing according to the capacities and possibilities of each school.
yeah, because I was going, the next my question was that it means that it should be something very open-minded. It should be very free of bureaucracy, of standardizations. It should be like very flexible because, of course, it's always comfortable to make some educational curriculum which is very standard and
Yeah,
doesn't like many changes, and it is just filled with these tests and effective tests for children and
yeah.
preparing for these tests and all this stuff. But the system, the educational system of the country should be open and free of bureaucracy to give such possibilities to school.
Of course,
Uh,
Anna. Of course, Anna. And uh, we are we are more and more aware that a standard and fixed curriculum is not good for anyone. Is not
yeah,
good for anyone. Or if you want, can be useful for 10% of students. But what
yeah,
about 90% of students?
yeah.
So we need a flexible curriculum. Let me give you an idea. 2 days ago, I was in a webinar of UECD about
Mhm,
creativity, and for
mhm,
instance, Ireland. Ireland has a
Mhm.
project of creativity in all educational system. They say we have to prepare our students for creativity, not for the curriculum, that standard curriculum. Our our students need to be creative. And really, yesterday, Mackenzie, one of the biggest institutions studying education, said that the most important for success of students is social and emotional capacities, much more than those things of the curriculum that we think they have to learn, if not, will
Yeah,
be a disaster. It's
yeah,
not a disaster. A disaster if the school doesn't fulfill these objectives of developing, human, in an ethic, in a solidaric way, all the students. This will be a disaster.
yeah. And my next question is about, we are speaking now about education program, about curriculum, but you always speak about environment. I mean, social environment,
Mhm.
environment between people, environment that comes into the school energetically. Yeah, this connection, kinds of people together in school, teachers, students, everybody. And you say that it has a very important key role in education. And what do you think? Is there some one model of universal communicative environment that gives effective education development to any kind of students and teachers, for any kind of people? Is there like such a universal communicative social environment model that
And
is
what
absolutely safe
yeah,
and educating and friendly?
what a difficult question, Anna.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
difficult question
difficult.
for me too.
It's difficult. Um, uh, about values, I think
Mhm,
uh, some values we can consider those values universal for everybody. And I would say, for instance, human rights are universal. And I believe that human rights, as they were written in 1948, they are valid for every human being in the world. I believe that. If they
mhm,
are Muslims, or they are Christians, or if they are Buddhists, or if they are to each, I believe human rights are universal. But I believe too that when you are in an educational system, you have to find what is more uh, appropriate to develop that system. And I've been working in Africa. Uh, I was a consultant in Cabo Verde, in Guinea, in Morocco, and I saw very different situations, very different situations. But I would say that the education we need is an education that respects the child. And
uh-huh,
normally that's not a tradition we have. We
mm.
were educated in a tradition that children are not very intelligent. They are just they are not human beings yet. They will be
Yeah,
one day. And and so this is very strange, because when you speak with a child of 4 years old, or 5 years old, or 6 years old, or 10 years old, you discover how intelligent, how brave, how pertinent they are understanding what is around them. And so I would say the first universal value is respect the child. Give the child a voice. Give him an opportunity to have voice. And give him also respect. That means try to understand what he's saying and act in favor of what he's saying. Respect and voice of students. very
This
important.
is the
Yeah,
main point inside the school.
yeah, and another thing, for instance, with children with disabilities, sometimes we have like it was if he has a disability, everything is disabled in the child, and that's not true. That's
Mhm.
not true. Most of children with disabilities, they are able to understand what is going on, and they are able to contribute for what is better for them and for what is around them. I know, for instance, cases of men with Down syndrome that take care of their families. It's
Mm.
amazing because we say, oh, with Down syndrome, we have to
Yes.
take care of them. No,
Yeah.
they take care of the others. And so I would say that probably the first step of these universal values is respect child. Give them a voice and respect their voice.
It also means to be open-minded, to see the child in his life, in his beautiful, yeah, state. He is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also means be free of any standard thinking, of any kind of this bureaucracy inside your own head or experience that doesn't give you to to see this, to see with the fresh eye, to see this fresh glance. And uh, so I think that today was very two important things we were discussing about this educational process and inclusion is the thing that you said about respect to children, and the second about the difference of special education and inclusive model. And if you don't mind, can I ask you a few personal questions?
Okay. Okay.
So, because my family had a wonderful chance to have a vacation in Portugal, and we were at 2010 in Armacas de Pera for
Okay.
a month, and I saw very many beautiful things in Portugal, and I love to eat delicious food. And when we was in Armacas de Pera, there was a little cafe with a chocolate cake, and it was
Okay.
written, maybe the best
The best
chocolate cake.
chocolate cake in the world. I know.
Have you eaten it? Have you eaten this cake?
Yeah,
And
it's a
it,
franchising. It's a franchising. You have that in different points
it's
of
not only
Portugal.
in Armacas de Pera, yeah. And it was really something, I don't know, it was a miracle. It was, we were eating this cake twice a day, waiting when the next delivery will come. And after that, I read that all Portuguese people, they are fans of sweets, mostly bakery, some pastry. Is it
Yeah.
true?
Uh, it's not my case, not for my
I
personal
would
case.
ask,
I'm not
are you
very fond
an
of.
original Portuguese or not? Are you a big lover of sweets?
To be
No.
honest, no, no. But I like to eat too, Anna. I think every people in the world loves to eat. Sometimes the Portuguese say, in Portugal we love to eat. You go to Spain and Spanish say, in Spain we love to eat. You go to France. Oh, in France we love to eat. Of course, everybody loves to eat good food, and I had very good food when I was in Georgia too. And so we have
They also
really
love to
very
eat.
good pastry in Portugal because from the old convents, the nuns in old convents, they made very good sweets, especially with and almond, eggs and
Mhm.
almond. And this combination made wonderful sweets, and you have them all over in Portugal. And so it's very
It was
dangerous. very dangerous for
Yeah,
your
but
physical
it was
condition.
it was really the best cake I've ever had. I remember it till today, though it was 10 years ago. I
Okay.
remember
And
it.
Anna, did you taste Portuguese wine?
Yes, of course, of
That's
course.
good. That's
It
very good.
was
It's
also
one.
very
It's
nice, and seafood was wonderful, and the nature of Portugal was terrific, and I saw that people are very connected with the nature,
yeah.
and
You
they
have to come back. You have to come back to Portugal.
I should, yeah.
You have to come back and come to
I
Lisbon and
saw
to
that
Porto and Coimbra.
connected.
You have.
I would be glad after this lockdown. I would be glad very, very much.
Okay. I hope so. I hope so.
And I saw that people are this connectedness with nature is very strong, and I saw that mostly this connectedness is like seen in art, in music, in visual art. This connectedness with nature is seen in these things, and I thought, do you paint or draw, or maybe you play some musical instrument, or maybe you sing, I don't know, do you have some talent?
Yeah, let me tell you, I think Portuguese people in general very connected with nature and with art. And
Yeah.
let just a number. In Lisbon, the capital of Portugal, Lisbon, we have 80 museums, 80 museums. So we have a lot of this tradition of art. But your question is a personal question,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, I am a poet. I write poetry. I
Uh-huh.
published already 10 books of poetry, and most of my books are of haiku poetry, that Japanese poetry of
Haiku.
only three
Yeah.
verses.
Four
And
or six. Yeah.
I published already 10 books of poetry. And I'm also a musician.
Oh,
I'm I I am a jazz pianist, and I
yeah.
have my own band. Let me show
Can you
you.
show?
Uh, these are records of my band, and
Oh,
I am a
my
jazz pianist, and I sing too when
God.
when it's
Oh my
needed.
God. It's
So
interesting.
I
Do we have
found
a
that
piano close to you? Do we have some piano close to you? No.
no,
Or
not
no?
now. I am in my office, and my piano is in the room, in
It's
the sitting room.
I would like to hear. I would like to listen to
Some
you.
other time I'd be glad
Yeah.
because I.
I hope it's not the last meeting, so we will arrange something like that.
Okay, that next time we do it in the room, and I will play a little
Oh,
blues for you.
well, thank you. And do you have some garden, maybe with fruits or
No,
vegetables
no. I live in an apartment. I live in an apartment.
in the
I've
city?
not. I'm not rich enough to live in a house. So I have an apartment in Lisbon, but it's a beautiful apartment. Let me tell you, because I live in front of Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, beautiful.
When you go to my veranda, you are in front of Atlantic Ocean. If you go
You
straight, you
you
arrive
just
in New York. But you have
it's
you have to swim a lot, but you arrive in New York.
straight. You
I
swim
live in
straight.
I live in front of
Yeah.
Atlantic Ocean. Yeah.
When you spoke about the museums, I'm Armenian and I cannot skip this question to you. When you spoke
Calouste
about the
Gulbenkian.
yes,
Calouste
yes,
Gulbenkian.
yeah. Maybe viewers now don't know who is it, but uh, I want to say it's a very curious bond between Armenians and Armenia and Portugal,
Yeah.
because he's a famous billionaire, he's a petrol king,
Yeah.
and 13 last years of his life, he lived in Portugal, and he
Yeah.
left his art heritage, his art collection to Portugal.
Yeah.
And there is a wonderful museum of Carlos Gulbenkian in Lisbon, right?
Yeah. Let me tell you, Anna, that Carlos Gulbenkian, his foundation, is a real institution in Portugal. We have a lot of respect for the Gulbenkian Foundation because they have a very good orchestra and a choir. They have a wonderful building and they have an astonishing um, collection of art. You have Rubens, you have Rembrandt, you have Monet, you have René Lalique, you have, it's a huge collection of art that Gulbenkian left in Portugal, Gulbenkian. And
That matter. I
it's
know that I know that his foundation also supports education
a
and
lot, a
more
lot.
education in Armenia for Armenians and
Yeah,
in Portugal.
in
And
Portugal.
I was curious if they support inclusive educational programs or maybe people with disabilities, students with disabilities. Do they support this?
A lot, and a lot.
Mm.
And let me tell you, for instance, that I am the president of that National Association of Teachers of Special Education,
Yeah.
and Gulbenkian Foundation sponsored us. And not only because we were an association, but we could submit some projects, and they sponsor those projects. We have a lot of respect for the Gulbenkian Foundation because it's not only money, it's
Yeah.
class,
Level. Yeah.
class level.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
each time you see Gulbenkian Foundation, you say, this is good, this is good. Gulbenkian Foundation is very good. And so
It's very pleasant to hear that.
we have that, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I want, as I understand, you sing, you play, you write poetry. So, and you are a leader. You are a person who has a huge staff, and you do this job, daily job, and all of us sometimes are tired and sometimes are overwhelmed or something like that. When it happens with you, how you like bring yourself back, how you what helps you to do that, if it happens?
Oh, one. This
Maybe
is
you're
a.
never tired, maybe you're never tired, I don't know, but if it happens.
It's very rare
Yeah.
that I'm tired. When I'm tired, I change my work.
But you
But
cannot
really,
stop working, it's not about you.
let me tell you that we are talking about personal things.
Yeah.
And I woke up every day 7 in the morning. Every day 7 in the morning, and I try to do things all along the day. I'm retired now, but probably I'm working now more than
Yeah.
before because I have, you know why? I have this idea that I can make a difference. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's true or not. I don't know. Probably it's not true. But I live with this idea. I can make a difference. And especially this difference will not happen if I do nothing. So I
Mhm.
have to do something.
Yeah.
And I can lose the game, but I'm always in the game. I
Mhm.
can lose, but uh, they, my, the, my opponents will not win because I'm not present. I am there. I am there every day, and
So it
this is a
never happened.
commitment I have.
It never happened. Then you lost your faith. Never happened.
Mm, that is too personal, but too personal. But I will say yes. One or twice in my life, I had difficult times. I think as everybody else has, but it was for a short time, And I was so lucky that I could regenerate myself.
You did it by yourself or somebody helped you?
Nobody is able to do that only by themselves. All of us, we need help. In a certain times of our life, we need help. There's a music in Brazil that nobody is able to be happy alone. Nobody is able to be happy alone. And this is about inclusion too. This is about the importance we have to develop of being in connection with others and use and and can have that advantage of using what others have best and give them what we have the best. I believe really that to be happy is to be in connection and to be able to give and to receive help.
Mhm. It's good because I think that people who are making this job with inclusion, mostly these are people who says I can make difference and they never overwhelmed or they are overwhelmed sometimes and for
Yeah.
a very short time because like
That's
these
my case. That's my case.
because these changes that they make and they are happening and they see these changes, they recover them.
Yeah.
Even if it is not very easy, they recover them. And as they are inside this process, they cannot stop because they understand that if they just step to the side, the process
Anna,
can
yeah,
go
yeah,
too.
Anna. That's an image I always give to my students. When I was a professor, I gave to my students that image about inclusion. I said that inclusion is that you have a big stone and you are pushing the stone on a hill. You are
Mhm.
pushing the stone up on a hill. And in the middle of the hill, you say, "Oh, I'm so tired." And you take your hands off the stone, and stone goes down the hill, and you have to push it again. So
Yeah,
I think it's very important for inclusion that we are persistent, that
yeah,
we we are all the time there. And they say, "Oh, there's a big problem," and I say, "Okay, we'll solve that problem." Oh, now and we are there, and we are there, and we are there, and
yeah.
uh, inclusion is not for losers. Inclusion is for winners. Is for winners means people that have faith in human nature, that have faith that we are all humans and we deserve the better. That is to be in connection with other humans. That
Mm.
is the better.
Thank you for this wonderful, inspiring words. And I have last question. Um, of course, if you decided or somebody decided to become a teacher who have chosen this profession, he should study, he should work hard, any teacher. But from your point of view, is a teacher a God given talent, like a vocation? Or any person can study and become a teacher? Or it's something given from God?
I believe that certain characteristics of your personality are better for being a teacher. And I would say, first of all, is to love, to explain, and to teach. You have
Mhm.
to have patience and you have to have a lot of creativity because you can't teach if you always teach the same way. That is a machine, not a teacher. A teacher is someone that is creative and finds new ways of teaching this and is able to invent new ways. Another characteristic of teacher is to bend the knees, to bend his knees, to get
Mm.
closer to the child. not people that speak like this for the child, up, down,
Mhm.
but people
Mhm.
that can go to the level of the child.
Mhm.
This is very important for a teacher. And third is someone that is passionate by knowledge, by trying to help people to make this voyage between what they are and what they can be. This is
Mhm.
a voyage. Sometimes we call this learning. Is a
Mhm.
trip between where you are and where you can be. This trip is knowledge. And if you are a good teacher, you are passionate for human relations, for children, and for knowledge.
I'm very thankful for this wonderful discussion and mostly for this personal part because uh,
Oh, well, and you asked me things that I never said before in public.
really, okay. So next time I will prepare more.
All right, and we'll make the interview in my sitting room with my piano
Yeah,
in
we will
front of the
start with
sea.
piano. We will start with piano because I'm absolutely sure and I believe in the idea that many things about real intention of a person who made this job and who is making this job like you are, this intention, these details are seen for the viewers through these personal questions. And
Yeah,
I think in that moment they see some connectedness with you and find something that is close to them, because of course we were speaking about very important things, the most important things in the lives for like parents like me, but these personal things are also very important because many people in post-Soviet area now are watching you and listening to you, and they are also such kind of people,
of
believers,
course, of
real
course.
believers who do their job daily, every day. Many of them are also in a retirement period of their life, but they are still working, and then they never lose their faith, and they have a lot of difficulties with educational system, which is very closed. For example, in Russia and in many other countries, it's very traditional and conservative, and this stone that they put to that hill, as you said, is huge. So, and I think that you were an inspiration for them, that they believe they do their job because they can achieve to what you were telling about Portugal. And it's a wonderful example, and I hope everybody we will have a chance to come and to see it with our
Of
eyes.
course, you are most welcome. And Anna, it was a real pleasure to talk to you because there's one love I have, that is the love for people. And it was a pleasure to
Thank you so
speak
much.
with you and to interact with you. It was very interesting. Thank you very much, and I wish all of you
Yeah.
health, and may our political systems help us to be better in education.
At
May them
least
look
made
to us.
may these countries open all the borders and we can see each other and be healthy.
Okay,
Start from
okay.
from this lockdown.
That's it. That's it.
Thank you very much, David.
And
Warm greetings to you from the whole Inclusive Practices team. Uh,
okay, give them a big hug for me. That's something that I love people, and I love to hug people and to kiss people. Give them a big hug from me.
of
Okay?
course, of course. So I'm
Okay.
kissing you and
Bye
hugging
bye.
you. Right, see you
Hugging.
soon.
Bye bye, Anne. Bye bye.